Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Rakuten Booth. Today we are here together to talk about a very important topic, the topic that we usually talk about at MWC, and this is private 5G. So the actual topic is the private 5G at scale. This is exactly what we all want, orchestrating the enterprise network of the future. With me today, let me introduce myself. I'm SK. I'm Senior Vice President of Partner and Portfolio at Rakuten Symphony. And with me today is Bob. Bob is from Cisco. Bob is the Chief Architect in Cisco. Then we have Job Benson. Job basically is a VP and GM of outdoor wireless networks at Airspan. And then we have Anju. Anju is the CEO of Lines Technologies. And we have Arnab Das with us. Arnab is from Capgemini. He's a VP of Advanced Connectivity Center of Excellence. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks.
All right, so let's start and dive right into the private 5G world. The first question to you, Bob, and also Job. So please share the answers. We're going to make it as interactive as possible today. Private 5G has moved beyond the technical trials, and we've done few technical trials. Even Rakuten Symphony and Cisco has put a few things together with a few other radio partners as well. But where are these enterprises see the measurable impact of private 5G that they should actually adapt?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And it's always best to start with the customers. One of the things that we've seen is real tangible benefits where there's a unique business value for this. And so some of the early adoption and some of the early success has been in areas like, ports and manufacturing, logistics areas, a lot of things like that, which is really important. The more important piece of this, though, is we've seen people come into this and they've said, okay, well, we want to try out private 5G as a new connectivity type. Maybe it's, an alternative to Wi-Fi or something like that. And they start with really soft objectives. And usually they're not terribly successful with that. They need to have a very specific business objective that they see that they're gonna accomplish with this. And then the other thing that's really key here is not treating it like an isolated area, right? Because we talk a lot about IT and OT convergence, and then sometimes these projects get started as, again, okay, over there, we're going to do this project. But really, to be successful, you need to take it from a full IT and OT standpoint. I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'll kind of stop there and maybe hand it over to Job and we can have more discussion.
All the time that you want, Bob. This is a very important topic. So let's talk about as much as you want to. But if you want to hand it over to Job, let's do that.
Yeah. I'll give it to you.
Sure. So I think from our Airspan's perspective, one of the things we're seeing in terms of private 5G networks is that we see customers asking us for something now beyond just connectivity. So they want an intelligent node. They want to do some sensing. They want to do some positioning. So 5G connectivity is absolutely necessary for it. But what we're saying is it's not sufficient. They need a little bit more, and they need a platform that can actually deliver pretty much a lot of that, is what I'd say.
Right. Thank you, Job. I think the Wi-Fi versus private 5G has been the talk of the town, and the benefits that we can see on the private 5G side of things as opposed to the Wi-Fi networks. That's where all the use cases are when it comes to these enterprises actually adopting private 5G as proper niche within the niche market.
I'll come in and I'll pass it to you. I think for deterministic connectivity, we see 5G as the base platform they go with. We have a use case where there's a rail operator. They use 5G for the critical communication, and we give them Wi-Fi for the non-critical, like video transmission. So we see both coexisting, but when it comes to deterministic critical communications, 5G is the go-to, connectivity platform.
Absolutely. Bob?
Yeah, I would actually differentiate a little bit more than sort of critical and non-critical. Not to be critical of what you said, but I know where you were going with that. I think what we see is in some of those what are called critical communication areas, but I would break it out as where you need something that's going to be require a lot of coverage, maybe a harsh environment like a port where you have a lot of interference from containers and and metal objects out there. The railway is one that we actually did a railway one together. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about. But yeah, where there's a lot of motion and a lot of activity going on there, and they want to separate it from the rest of the networking there. And so just to be a little more specific on that, I think that's where, and I think that's where you were getting at there. We just have a lot of Wi-Fi customers who think they do critical things on that too. But yeah, no, spot on, spot on.
Wi-Fi and Private 5G. I think Cisco can get benefit from both of those.
That's of both words.
All right, so I'm going to turn now to Andrew. So Andrew, the, the next biggest challenge in private 5G radio performance, is it the integration, or is it the operational complexity, or is it something else? What do these enterprises look at when they see private 5G from complexity perspective?
Sure. I would like to share some of my successful customers' deployments in terms of private 5G. That my customer manufacture flows, they are large campus for veterans, hospital, healthcare centers, and then we have a fixed wireless access, and we also work with DOW with some defense system. The most challenge is manufacture flow. The flow is definitely not RF friendly. It's very hostile. You have like metals, you have moving machinery, AGVs, AMRs, AOIs, and you have EMIs, of course. So what I see from manufacturer customers, since Taiwan is very advanced in terms of supply chain and very top-notch manufacturer strategies. So the RF, or they never, or they're careless about the peak speed or the lowest latency. They want predictable performance. That's what they want from private 5G. And that's very important to them because they really don't tie these performance metrics to private network. They want to tie to the business outcome, as Bob mentioned. That's critical. So do I get my the workflow accelerate? Do I get my handover smooth, better than before? Do I have my equipment, my operation more safe? And that's also, they want to be able to, sorry about Wi-Fi, they want to be able to do 5G on this very important different environment, which are very challenged. Because every manufacturer are different. They make different stuff. And so that is what they tie, as Bob said, the business outcome KPI to this investment rather than tied to another connectivity, a private network. So this to looking at these cases, fixed wireless is very simple. They don't care about all these. But then the manufacturer flow is really a good example for us to really make private 5G repeatable deployment for different manufacturer, even for different application use. I think that's the critical scale factor, is to have very clear business outcome and SI operators that implement end-to-end, and they have to link with my SLAs. You're going to have a sales level agreement between the orchestrating end-to-end, and you have business outcome, and that has to be done through SLA. That's what we saw in Taiwan's manufacturers.
That is a very critical insight, Anju. From your perspective, what you've just described from an enterprise priorities being the predictability of the network, and that's the key. If we can be as predictable as possible from private 5G perspective, there will be more uptake and more adoption from the enterprises. And Bob, this Wi-Fi comment's going to come and bite you again and again. Let me tell you that.
That's okay. I earned it.
All right, we'll move to Arnab now. Arnab is from Capgemini. We've recently started talking about a private 5G collaboration together for a few of the manufacturing factories in Europe, in automotive industry. That could actually be the first commercial deployment from Rakuten Symphony perspective, and we actually expect that would actually scale at large.
In that industry.
So I'll just the mic, please.
Yeah.
Please.
So one of the kind of insights, everybody's talking about business outcomes, and it's not about the connectivity. So one of the facets of what would make it scale from an enterprise perspective is this is look at it as not just a IT or let's say operations division program for bringing in yet another upgrade. Go from Ethernet to Wi-Fi to maybe putting in near field communications, Bluetooth, whatever within some environment. That is all there. Obviously, private 5G is all about selecting your frequency of operation and small cell and where do you put the antennas inside, outside. But really, to go from a project mindset to deploying private 5G to having a, let's say, I'm going to use this word, could be controversial, product mindset, which means what do I do with this connectivity? I'm going to be able to collect a lot of data very efficiently. Can I store it? Can I not just use that data for the immediate use cases of production and all of that, but can I also monetize it in some way? Maybe not necessary to sell it outside the enterprise, but think of it, a chemical industry giant based out of Germany has got 170 plants all over the world. If there is a process that is leveraging rapid data collection, using that data to improve production of, let's say, certain chemicals, you can replicate that in another plant in Vietnam, and you could have uh, between the two divisions some kind of commercial agreements which actually feed into this, and it makes it more successful. So whoever is investing first in deploying private 5G and making it count can also monetize it. Now, some of them, like I know, for example, heavy earth moving equipment kind of company, all the data that they are collecting from project sites, etc., on where they can predict that this particular site, which is in construction, can undergo some supply chain delays based on certain information that is available at a remote site. Now you can actually monetize that. You can make it a service, where you can say that, no, forget about private 5G, but I can give you project management commitment based on delivering projects on time because I have access to this data. So in summary, to scale private 5G beyond just the technical angles of network design, planning, implementation, operation, think of ways of what you can do with that data, what you can do with commercializing that data, and that actually feeds back into the program and lets you sustain and grow and scale the private 5G. So that's kind of what we are seeing, because in Capgemini we do a lot of these digital transformation programs, the CDO offices of enterprises. So these thoughts really come from them. They look at connectivity, but really to how to use that investment elsewhere is what they look at.
Thank you very much. And a follow-up question on that. Um, Private 5G has actually been talk of the town a few years ago.
Yeah.
We did expect that there will be some adoption from the enterprises. I think they do understand the technical benefits of it, possibly the data monetization side of things as well. I do want to ask you, what are those challenges currently the industry is facing to have that uptake or the lack of for these enterprises in the private 5G domain?
Absolutely. There are a couple of things there purely from a capex and deployed investments. The the approach to inserting a private 5G conversation in an enterprise needs to take in account there is no green. I mean, there could be greenfield, new plants, gigafactories, etc., but there's a lot of brownfield sites. So the approach to taking a private 5G proposal into an enterprise needs to take into account the investments that the enterprise has already done in their IT and connectivity over the years. So how do you make it incremental to it? So having an approach to that, where you will find therefore that the CIO organization or the procurement organization has lesser entry barrier when they then start looking into this as an option. The second thing is what I just said. There is always some part typically driven by the chief digital transformation officer, sometimes from the CTO organization. So there will be a lighthouse case within an enterprise. It is very important that when you engage in the lighthouse case, not just to get super connectivities, devices are always connecting, nobody's losing signal. That all happens in the first couple of months. But what really falls off the cliff is there would be one use case for which that installation will be used, and then people tend to forget. There is nobody paying attention to how do I continuously keep adding applications, edge applications, or whatever be your secret sauce, so that over 5 6 months period, that lighthouse is seen as very successful, which can incorporate new applications, new use cases, and that is when even within the enterprise, especially large ones, it will find more uptake, and that becomes for that industry, if chemical, automotive, life science, if there's a lighthouse enterprise in that industry, then others kind of if they can do it, why can't we? So what really happens is we look at it as connectivity, RSSI values and the antenna angles and all that, and once that works, we forget it becomes a POC, and nobody is able to really leverage it beyond a couple of use cases. It's very important from a account engagement perspective to not stop at the things working at a connectivity level, but making sure you're able to demonstrate that this is really a platform on which you can keep adding use cases and leveraging that one-time investment. So that tenacity needs to be there to ensure scaling up.
Thank you very much, Arnab. Arnab, I think the investment side of things that begs to a question,
Yeah.
the cost of deployment,
Yeah.
and the whole solution itself.
Absolutely.
And this is why I'm going to turn to Job now. So on the cost side of things, Job, what is it that Airspan is doing to make these radios or the solution itself as cost effective as possible? Because if someone's investing into private 5G,
Yeah.
you cannot ask them to just rip their current Wi-Fi and with minimal kind of technical benefits and a lot of cost. So that just deviates from the business case that you could see. But what is it that Airspan is doing to try and address the challenge?
Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest issues a lot of private 5G networks go just to sit on the the answer that Pranab mentioned is the cost of integration, the complexity in integrating the private 5G network into their existing network, right? So, and the other part of this is that you also have to integrate multiple different applications, multiple different boxes to that same radio network. I think one of the things we'd look at from an architectural perspective is looking at how can the radio platform itself do something beyond connectivity. So we're looking at multiple different applications that integrate into it. So we look at it as 4 key main pillars that could solve pretty much most of the problems that go into the connectivity domain, right? Or in the private 5G network. So obviously connectivity is foundational, but we also see some level of positioning is absolutely important, level of edge compute. So there's some edge compute applications that could be run in the small cell or all-in-one platform itself, and then that takes away some of the burden away from the private network itself. And then, of course, one of the more recent applications is sensing. That's pretty good for things like asset tracking or intrusion detection. There's multiple applications you could do with that same infrastructure that you actually invested in, right? So those are some of the ways in which the total cost of ownership for a private 5G network could be brought down.
Fantastic, and I think this is very important for the customers to understand that if the capex is a little bit extra, there's going to be yeah, the monetization of the services actually can churn the wheel, and basically at the end of the day is the lesser total cost of ownership. Bob, final words.
Yeah. I just wanted to build off of this because I think it's a really important theme. Simplicity is super critical. These are enterprises who have a business that they're running. They're not mobile operators, and they don't really want to have to care about their radio planning. They don't want to have to care about the core. They don't want to have to care about all this. They just want a functioning system that's going to deliver those business results. And so, one of the things that I like about the solution that we're doing together, the more that you can simplify this, simplify the adoption, simplify the integration, from a security standpoint, yeah, okay. So cellular devices have a SIM, which gives you a SIM authentication, which is good, but that's still not enterprise IT and security integration. And so then that needs to integrate into their policy systems. They need to be able to have common policy. So this isn't a foreign network, as you said. It's an extension of their existing network. All of these things kind of help take the friction out of it and help with that adoption of getting more application, getting in there in the first place, and then getting more more applications to come on there, and so that's just can't be underscored enough, I think. And then the other thing that we saw was even delivering this as a service to the enterprises. So it's not purely just drop it off on their site and then here you go. And so that as a service model has worked out really well for them also.
Fantastic. I mean, I think for the mid to large organizations and enterprises, private 5G as a service could actually work really well, and it could actually be an interesting, very interesting use case. Thank you very much today for your time, the panelists. Bob, Job, Andrew, Arnab, thank you very much for joining us. And again, welcome to Rakuten Booths.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks SK for having us.